Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? Like you're following a script written by society, your family, or the expectations of others? Pause for silent reflection. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast canyon. Behind you lies everything familiar, your comfort zone, your habits, your carefully constructed identity. Ahead of you stretches the unknown. Beautiful, terrifying, and filled with infinite possibilities, this canyon represents the gap between who you are today and who you're truly meant to become. You see, most of us spend our lives trying to bridge this gap with other people's building materials. We use their dreams as our foundation, their expectations as our support beams, their approval as our safety net. But here's the truth that transformed my life, and I believe it will transform yours. The only bridge that will ever truly hold your weight is the one built with your own truth, your own courage, and your own self-love. I remember sitting in my car one evening, successful by every external measure. Respected position, beautiful home. All the trappings of what society calls making it. Yet there I sat, feeling completely empty inside. The reflection in my rearview mirror showed someone I barely recognized anymore. That moment became my awakening, my personal revolution. The most profound truth I've discovered in my journey is this: choosing yourself first isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's not just about saying no to others. It's about saying a deep, resounding yes to yourself. When you choose yourself first, you're not rejecting the world. You're finally showing up in it authentically. Think about the oxygen mask principle on airplanes. They always tell you to secure your own mask before helping others. Why? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give what you don't have. You can't lead others to a place you haven't been willing to go yourself. But let's be honest, choosing yourself is often the hardest choice you'll ever make. It means standing alone sometimes. It means disappointing people who've grown comfortable with your compromises. It means facing the voice inside that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" That voice, let's talk about that voice for a moment. You know the one I mean? The inner critic that keeps a detailed catalog of every mistake you've ever made, every failure, every moment of doubt. That voice isn't you. It's the accumulated weight of every should and must that others have placed upon your shoulders. I remember working with a gentleman. Let's call him Michael. He'd spent 30 years building a successful law practice, following in his father's footsteps. One day he came to me, his eyes filled with tears, and said something that broke my heart. "I've achieved everything I was supposed to want, but none of what I truly desired." He had a corner office, but had lost sight of his corner of the universe. The truth is, every time you deny your authentic self, you're committing a small act of spiritual suicide. Every time you say yes, when your soul is screaming no, you're trading your birthright of joy for a bowl of approval soup. Is it really worth it? The universe did deeply. The universe didn't create a duplicate. There are no backup copies of you. You are not a rough draft or a practice version. You are the only edition that will ever exist of you. And when you don't choose yourself, when you don't honor your truth, you're depriving the world of something irreplaceable. But choosing yourself requires more than just recognition. It requires radical responsibility. It means stopping the blame game. It means no more pointing fingers at your past, your parents, your circumstances, or the world at large. It means looking in the mirror and saying, "I am the author of my life story. And from this moment forward, I choose to write it with love." Which journey begins with a simple but profound question. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Not what would make others proud, not what looks good on paper, not what's practical or sensible or safe. What would you do if the only opinion that mattered was your own? Deep breath. And here's where many of you might be thinking, but what about my responsibilities? What about my family? What about my commitments? These are valid questions, but they often come from a place of scarcity thinking. We believe that choosing ourselves means abandoning others. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you truly choose yourself, you become more for others, not less. You bring your full, authentic energy to every relationship. You model the courage that others need to see. You give others permission to be themselves by being yourself first. I've seen this transformation countless times. People who finally choose themselves don't become selfish. They become selective. They don't become cold. They become clear. They don't become distant. They become deliberate. And in that clarity and deliberateness, they create more authentic connections than ever before. But let me be clear. This isn't about making dramatic, sweeping changes overnight. It's about making one conscious choice at a time. It's about small acts of courage that build upon each other. It's about learning to listen to the quiet voice of your intuition rather than the loud demands of the world. Every great journey begins with a single step. Your step today might be as simple as saying no to something that doesn't align with your values. It might be spending 10 minutes in silence, reconnecting with your inner wisdom. It might be admitting to yourself what you really want, even if you're not ready to share it with anyone else yet. Think of it like tending a garden. You can't force a flower to bloom, but you can create the conditions for growth. You can remove the weeds of self-doubt, till the soil of possibility. Plant the seeds of your dreams and water them with consistent action. As we continue this journey together, I want you to hold on to this truth. You are not broken, and you don't need fixing. You're not lost, and you don't need finding. You are exactly where you need to be to begin becoming who you're meant to be. Are you ready to choose yourself? Let me share something profound with you. The moment you truly choose yourself is the moment your entire reality begins to shift. It's like adjusting the lens through which you view the world. Suddenly, everything comes into sharp focus. I once worked with someone who spent decades building walls instead of bridges to their true self. Every morning they'd put on their armor, their perfect smile, their calculated responses, their carefully curated personality. They were living in constant fear of being found out, of people discovering they weren't who they were. Does this resonate with any of you? This exhausting practice of being a masterful actor in your own life. The truth is, we're all born knowing exactly who we are. Watch any young child. They don't struggle with authenticity. They don't wake up wondering if they should dim their light to make others comfortable. They don't question whether their dreams are practical or their joy is appropriate. So when did we lose this? When did we start trading our authenticity for acceptance? When did we begin to believe that being loved meant being someone else? Usually it happens so gradually, we barely notice. It's in the small moments, when we swallow our truth to keep the peace, when we nod in agreement while our heart screams in protest, when we choose safety over growth, comfort over courage. Every time you choose yourself, you're not just making a decision, you're making a declaration. You're telling the universe, I am worthy of my own love. I am worthy of my own respect. I am worthy of my own time and energy. Think about it. Would you treat someone you deeply love the way you sometimes treat yourself? Would you question their dreams, dismiss their feelings, or constantly criticize their efforts? Would you expect them to be perfect and never make mistakes? The journey of choosing yourself begins with this radical idea. So you deserve the same compassion you so freely give to others. You deserve your own understanding, your own forgiveness, your own patience. But let me be clear. Choosing yourself isn't about becoming selfish or inconsiderate. It's about becoming honest. It's about aligning your outside world with your inner truth. When you do this, something magical happens. You develop what I call authentic magnetism. Authentic magnetism isn't about trying to attract people or opportunities to you. It's about becoming so genuinely yourself that the right people and opportunities are naturally drawn to your truth. It's like finally playing your unique note in the universal symphony. Suddenly, you're in harmony with life itself. I want you to try something with me right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Now imagine yourself 5 years from now having spent every day choosing yourself first. Imagine the confidence in your walk, the peace in your heart, the clarity in your decisions. Imagine the relationships you have, not based on obligation or fear, but on genuine connection and mutual respect. That future version of you isn't a fantasy. It's a possibility waiting to be claimed. But it requires something from you today. Courage. The courage to disappoint people in the short term, to honor yourself in the long term. The courage to say no to good things so you can say yes to great things. The courage to stand alone rather than compromise your truth. I remember the first time I chose myself in a major way. The world didn't end. The sky didn't fall. Yes, some people were uncomfortable. Yes, some relationships had to be redefined, but what I gained was invaluable. I gain myself. Some people won't like it when you choose yourself. They've grown comfortable with your compromises. They've built their expectations around your compliance. They might even try to make you feel guilty for changing the rules of the game. But ask yourself this: would you rather disappoint others or continue to disappoint yourself? Would you rather face external resistance or internal regret? Would you rather deal with temporary discomfort or permanent comfort? The choice to put yourself first ripples out into every area of your life. It affects how you spend your time, who you spend it with, what you tolerate, what you celebrate. It influences your career choices, your relationships, your health decisions. When you choose yourself, you start asking better questions. And instead of what should I do, you ask, what do I want to do? Instead of what will others think, you ask, what do I think? Instead of how can I fit in, you ask, how can I stand out authentically? And here's something beautiful. When you choose yourself consistently, you develop what I call unshakable worthiness. This isn't arrogance or ego. It's a quiet, steady knowing that you are enough. It's the understanding that your worth isn't tied to your achievements, your relationships, or others' opinions of you. This unshakable worthiness becomes your foundation. From this place, you can love without losing yourself. You can give without depleting yourself. You can succeed without compromising yourself. You can fail without destroying yourself. Remember, choosing yourself is not a one-time decision. It's a practice. It's something you'll need to do again and again, in big ways and small ways every single day. Some days it will feel natural and easy. Other days, it will feel like the hardest thing you've ever done. But each time you choose yourself, you're building something precious. You're building self-trust. You're showing yourself that you can count on you. You're proving that your words to yourself matter, that your promises to yourself are sacred. Think about this. Every great innovation, every piece of beautiful art, every positive change in the world came from someone who dared to choose themselves. They dared to listen to their inner voice above the chorus of doubters. They dared to believe that their unique perspective mattered. You have that same power within you. You have that same potential for greatness, but it will remain just potential until you make the conscious choice to put yourself first. You know what fascinates me? The way we often treat everyone else's time as more valuable than our own. We'll quickly respond to others' emergencies while postponing our own dreams. We'll rearrange our entire schedule to accommodate someone else's needs while pushing our own priorities to the bottom of the list. Let me share something powerful with you. Your time is not just a resource. It's your life force. Every minute you spend is a minute you'll never get back. When you give your time to things that don't align with your true self, you're not just spending time, you're spending your life. I worked with someone who spent 20 years saying just another year at a job that drained their soul. One more year to get the promotion. One more year to reach the pension milestone. One more year to figure out what else they could do. 21 more years later, they realized they had traded their life force for security that felt more like a prison. This isn't about making reckless decisions or abandoning responsibilities. It's about honest evaluation. It's about asking yourself, is this where I want my life force to go? Is this choice feeding my soul or depleting it? When you choose yourself first, you begin to see time differently. You start to understand that no is a complete sentence. You realize that every yes to something that doesn't serve your highest good is a no to something that could transform your life. But here's where many people get stuck. They wait for permission. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for someone to validate their choices. Let me tell you something profound. The permission you're waiting for can only come from within. Think about the times in your life when you knew, deep in your gut, what you needed to do, but you waited for external confirmation. How many opportunities slipped away while you were waiting for someone else's approval? Choosing yourself requires developing what I call emotional sovereignty. This means taking full ownership of your feelings, your decisions, and your life direction. It means understanding that while others may have opinions about your choices, they don't have to live with the consequences. You do. When you develop emotional sovereignty, something remarkable happens. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming a creator of circumstances. You move from reaction to response, from drift to direct. But let me address something important: the guilt. Oh, the guilt. It's probably sitting in this room right now, heavy on some of your shoulders. The guilt of wanting more, of desiring change, of putting yourself first. Can we talk about this for a moment? Guilt is often a sign that you're growing beyond old boundaries. It's the growing pains of your soul. When you feel guilty for choosing yourself, it's usually because you're breaking an old agreement. An agreement you may have made unconsciously. Good people always put others first. Wanting more is selfish. You have to earn the right to be happy. These are not universal truths. They're learned limitations. And what's learned can be unlearned. So every time you honor yourself, you teach others how to honor themselves. Every time you stand in your truth, you give others permission to find theirs. Your self-respect creates ripples that touch lives you may never even meet. Think about the message you send to your children, your friends, your community, when you choose yourself with love and integrity. You're not just changing your life. You're changing the narrative about what's possible. But choosing yourself isn't just about the big decisions. It's about the small, daily choices, too. It's about setting boundaries with your time and energy. It's about speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It's about taking care of your body, mind, and spirit as if they were your most precious possessions, because they are. Every choice you make is either an investment in your authentic self or a payment on a debt to someone else's expectations. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're making a withdrawal from your spirit. But here's the beautiful thing. You can start making deposits right now. Every time you honor your truth, you make a deposit. Every time you set a healthy boundary, you make a deposit. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you make a deposit. Personal sovereignty, the right and responsibility to govern your own life, is your birthright. No one can give it to you because it already belongs to you. But you must claim it. You must exercise it. You must protect it. When you choose yourself first, you're not just making a decision, you're making a declaration of independence. You're saying, I am worthy of my own attention. I am worthy of my own respect. I am worthy of my own love. This declaration changes everything. It changes how you walk into a room. It changes how you engage in relationships. It changes how you pursue your dreams. It changes how you handle because when you truly choose yourself, failure becomes feedback, rejection becomes redirection, and obstacles become opportunities. But remember this, choosing yourself isn't about reaching a destination. It's not about achieving some perfect state of self-actualization. It's about the journey. It's about the daily practice of coming home to yourself again and again and again. What would your life look like if you removed the word should from your vocabulary? If every decision came from want or choose instead of should or must? This simple shift in language can create a seismic shift in your life. Think about the power of language for a moment. When you say I should, you're often speaking from obligation, from external expectations. But when you say I choose, you're speaking from personal power. You're acknowledging your role as the architect of your own life. I remember working with a talented artist who said, I should focus on a real career. Notice the language, should real career. As if their passion wasn't real enough, worthy enough, valid enough. Who decides what's real? Who determines what's worthy? When you choose yourself, you reclaim the power to define success on your own terms. Success isn't a destination. It's alignment. It's the harmony between who you are and how you live. It's the congruence between your inner truth and your outer expression. But here's something crucial to understand. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you'll always feel ready. Sometimes choosing yourself means taking action while your knees are shaking. It means saying what needs to be said even when your voice trembles. It means stepping into the unknown even when uncertainty clouds your path. I call this courageous authenticity, the willingness to be seen in your truth even when it's uncomfortable, even when it goes against the grain, even when it means standing alone. Let's talk about standing alone for a moment. Many of us stay in situations that no longer serve us because we fear loneliness. But here's a truth that might shake. You're never more alone than when you're surrounded by people but disconnected from yourself. True connection with others and with opportunities can only happen when you're firmly connected to yourself first. It's like trying to use a phone with a dead battery. You can't connect to anything until you plug into your own power source. When you choose yourself first, you plug into your power source. Your decisions become clearer. Your boundaries become stronger. Your yes becomes more meaningful because your no becomes more honest. But let me be clear about something. Choosing yourself isn't about becoming impervious to pain or immune to doubt. It's about developing a new relationship with these experiences. When you choose yourself, pain becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. Doubt becomes a question rather than a conclusion. By the time you don't choose yourself, you create a small crack in your foundation. Every time you betray your own truth, you weaken your spiritual immune system. Every time you say yes, when your soul is screaming, no, you lose a little bit of your life force. But the opposite is also true. Every time you honor yourself, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you speak your truth, you boost your spiritual immune system. Every time you align your actions with your values, you increase your life force. Think of choosing yourself as a practice of sacred selfishness. Sacred because it comes from a place of deep respect for your life's purpose. Selfish because it requires putting your own oxygen mask on first. When you combine these elements, you create a sustainable way of living that serves both you and the world. Remember this, the world doesn't need more people living lives of quiet desperation. The world needs people who have come alive through choosing themselves, people who have found their voice by listening to their inner wisdom, people who have discovered their power by honoring their truth. When you choose yourself, you give others the gift of your authentic presence, not the watered-down version, not the people-pleasing version, not the safe version, the real you with all your complexity, all your creativity, all your power. This choice to put yourself first is not just about you. It's about the ripple effect you create. It's about the example you set. It's about the permission you give others to do the same. When you choose yourself, you become a lighthouse for others who are still finding their way home to themselves. But here's where many people get stuck. They think choosing themselves means having everything figured out. They wait for clarity before taking action. But clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. It comes from taking one step, then another in the direction of your truth. The path of choosing yourself isn't always clear, but it's always worthwhile. It's not always easy, but it's always right. It's not always comfortable, but it's always growth-producing. And most importantly, it's not always understood by others, but it's always understood by your soul. Let me share something powerful with you as we near the end of our time together. The greatest act of courage is looking in the mirror and saying, from this moment forward, I choose me. I want you to take a moment right now. Close your eyes and put your hand on your heart. Feel its steady rhythm. That heartbeat has been with you since before you took your first breath. It's been keeping its own time, following its own wisdom, choosing itself first. Every single moment of every single day, your heart doesn't ask permission to beat. It doesn't apologize for taking up space. It doesn't question whether it deserves the blood it pumps. It simply does what it's meant to do, without hesitation, without doubt, without guilt. What if you lived like your heart beats? What if you moved through life with that same unwavering commitment to your own rhythm? What if you trusted your internal wisdom as much as your heart trusts its own timing? The journey of choosing yourself is really a journey of coming home. Home to your truth, home to your power, home to your purpose. But here's what makes this journey challenging. We often don't recognize home when we see it because we've lived so long in other people's houses. Think about that for a moment. How many of your current beliefs are hand-me-downs from others? How many of your goals are inherited? How many of your boundaries or lack thereof are borrowed? When you choose yourself first, you begin a process of spiritual archaeology. You dig through layers of conditioning to uncover your authentic self. Sometimes what you find might surprise you. You might discover dreams you buried so deep you forgot they existed. You might unearth passions you silenced long ago. You might find strength you never knew you had. This archaeological dig isn't always comfortable. You might uncover old wounds that need healing. You might find patterns that need breaking. You might discover truths that demand action. But remember, discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is the feeling of your spirit stretching to accommodate your growth. As we bring this journey together to a close, I want to leave you with what I call the 3 sacred promises, the promises that will transform your life if you keep the first promise. I promise to listen to my inner wisdom above all other voices. This means tuning into your gut feelings, honoring your intuition, and trusting your internal guidance system. I promise to treat my dreams with respect. This means refusing to minimize your desires, refusing to apologize for your ambitions, refusing to play small to make others comfortable. I promise to choose myself first, not out of selfishness, but out of self-love. This means understanding that self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It means recognizing that your well-being isn't negotiable. These promises aren't meant to be kept perfectly. They're meant to be kept persistently. They're meant to be your North Star when the path gets foggy, your anchor when the waves get rough, your compass when the road gets uncertain. Every moment is a new opportunity to choose yourself. Every breath is a chance to begin again. Every heartbeat is a reminder that you're worthy of your own love, your own respect, your own time, your own energy. You don't need to earn the right to choose yourself. You don't need to prove you're worthy of putting yourself first. You don't need to justify your decision to honor your truth. You were born worthy. You were born deserving. You were born enough. So as you leave this space today, I want you to carry this truth with you. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's not just an act of self-care. It's an act of self-liberation, and in liberating yourself, you light the way for others to do the same. The world is waiting for you. Not the version of you that's been shaped by others' expectations, but the real you. The you that comes alive when you choose yourself first. The you that emerges when you finally give yourself permission to be who you truly are. Your life is calling. Your purpose is waiting. Your time is now. Choose yourself. Choose yourself first. Choose yourself always. Thank you.